Hello, everyone, and hope you all had a wonderful holiday. Those who celebrate Christmas and those who just celebrate. I am just hoping that everyone had a wonderful time with their loved ones, or by yourself, as in my case, which I chose to do and really enjoyed it. Tonight, I'm back with Laura, and we are continuing the series we are doing on revamping education, especially in a time of AI. Over the last few weeks, Laura was busy, I was busy, and so we had a bit of a gap, but that doesn't matter because we're back tonight and we are going to pick up where we left off. Before I bring Laura on, I wanted to share some research I did with you. And I'm going to read it off of my notes. That's why I'm wearing my glasses anyway. The American government spends $857.2 billion on education every year. And as far as education goes, the United States of America ranks 25th amongst all the developed nations when it comes to education. Reading, math, science combined. That's how we rate. John D. Rockefeller, who created the education system, is quoted as saying he wants a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. So, that being said, it really made me sad when I found out where we rank. And if we are ranking there now, and we're bringing AI, or AI is already integrating into our education system, I shudder to think what is on the horizon. If someone or someones do not start rectifying this dire situation, because our young people are the future of our nation and the world, because let's face it, we all venture out into other parts of the world. I have a British education and a British upbringing. And I remember when I first got to America, I thought I was the dumbest person I knew because I discovered I couldn't spell basic English words, although literature and English are two of my strongest subjects. And I couldn't fathom what was wrong with me until I said to my husband, because I came to the US in a marriage, he said to me, because I was getting depressed about it, Jenny, you're actually more educated than half the people you're comparing yourself to. And I soon discovered there's American English and there is English English. Enough said. Laura, welcome back.
Hi, thank you so much, Jenny, for having me back after a little bit of a gap. So, yes, I definitely agree with everything. I knew about this statistics. That's what's so concerning. We've had many different programs, No Child Left Behind, things like that, that have always supposedly supposed to be the cornerstone of our education system, that now we don't even have a Department of Education. That has kind of been unraveling due to the current administration. No regulation. So we have no regulation in education, no regulation in the AI department as well. So we're totally unregulated, and this poses a problem for our future generation. And they're going to be looking to us and say what it is that we did that, caused them to be in this kind of a situation, you know. So there's the godmother of AI. She's She's very prominent, and her name is Dr. Fei Fei Li, and she's at Stanford University, and she's quite concerned about education and where it's headed. And she's saying that the degrees that people are getting are not going to be pertinent for when they graduate from universities. So critical thinking, logical thinking, but thinking outside the box is going to be really key in dealing with this new panorama that we're going to have. And I just see it happening in real time. I have a friend. She just moved actually out of California into Seattle, and she has one child that's finishing up university, and I think had an internship, and then she has another one that was working for another major company, and they had a whole bunch of layoffs, as so many of the big companies are doing. And so she has two educated children who have done all the right things, as we used to think the right things, right? Study, work hard, get your degree, go for your career. But that is no longer the panorama of what is happening out there. So, and now all of these young people are having to live with their families, you know. Thank God that some of the families can support that. How about if family cannot? And they're living with their parents until they figure out where all this is going to leave and how they should pivot and what they should pivot to. So it's all very concerning, for our future generation, and we are responsible because we are the ones that are at least at a point in our lives where, maybe we have some generational wealth, maybe we were able to build some wealth or whatever, but nobody is regulating where all of these big guns of, you know, are headed with this artificial intelligence, super intelligence, which is right around the corner, the godlike artificial intelligence. That's what we're talking about. So it's concerning.
Well, before we continue, I want to point this out so that you will watch this video in its entirety. I will be inserting segments from other podcasters like Joe Rogan.
The problem with traditional education is it was designed by the Rockefeller family. Like the school system in this country was designed to create better factory workers and soldiers and to get them real early. That's why they want to start you at 5, because they figured out you start people at 12 or 13, they already got their ideas of what the world is and how the world works. And I'm not fucking shooting somebody for you, So what they do is they get you when you're 5. And when you're 5, they can kind of indoctrinate you, separate you from your parents most of the day while your parents are at work. And so that's like most of your day, you have other people other than your parents telling you how the world is, how the world works, what's happening in your life, and what you should be doing. And that's kind of crazy because a lot of those people suck. How strange it is that people that I don't respect and I don't enjoy are the ones that are in control.
The education system is failing.
Why do we spend 14 years at school, kindergarten, junior, middle school, high school, learning things that will be of no value? The capitals of all the states and the names of the rivers in Canada going from left to right or west to east or whatever. Why? You can look that up. But they didn't teach our kids how to balance a checkbook.
This is what school looks like in China, integrated and changing with the technology of the times we now live in. And this is what it looks like in the West. It looks the same as it did 150 years ago. It's stagnant. And let's be honest, many of the things taught in school today won't even matter in 10 years. The system has not caught up. It's still built like an old factory with rows of kids, same lessons, same pace, training them to be mindless workers in a world that doesn't need those skills anymore. We're teaching obedience, not innovation, routine, not resilience, a desert of creativity. And higher education isn't any better. Over half of college graduates are unemployed. 52% never get a job that actually needs their degree. And 10 years later, nearly half of them are still stuck doing jobs they did not study for. That's not education, that's career roulette, and a big sign that the system is broken. To make it worse, degrees are getting more expensive and less useful. Most graduates never work in their field they studied in, ever. And if you can use AI to write your test paperwork, should you be studying that subject? Meanwhile, the job market is collapsing over automation completely. Oxford studies estimate that a quarter of all occupations are at high risk of being taken over by AI right now. And not just the easy ones, even high-skilled jobs are getting picked apart by algorithms. Lawyers, accountants, journalists, graphic designers. So what exactly are we preparing these kids for? Because school isn't teaching how to build a business, how to manage money, how to structure a company, or how to avoid paying tax like the ultra-wealthy do. And teachers know it too. Classrooms are chaos. Kids are wired from dopamine hits, flicking between screens every few seconds. Their attention spans are shredded. Teachers are burning out trying to compete with TikTok, YouTube, and a digital world that rewires the brain faster than any textbook ever could.
These kids have so much screen time, their brains don't work.
The sad truth is, the system was never designed to make you wealthy or free. It was designed to make you useful. So maybe it's time schooling taught real skills like entrepreneurship, adaptability, emotional intelligence. How to work with AI instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Because if we don't change what we're teaching, we're just raising a generation of perfectly prepared students for a world that doesn't exist.
Have you found out a new AI tool? What did you find interesting about it? Have you applied it? Where have you applied it? So that they are actively engaged with the technology that is there, and we are not saying no, 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 because you know that every time you say no to a teenager, to a middle schooler, to whatever, then there is more this desire to do, to be, to explore. No, I don't do that. I don't shy away from these tools. I let the classroom be engaging about them. If they have done something where they've used it, how did you use it? How did you edit yourself out? How did you prompt it? How did you use that tool? I make it a part because it is going to be a part of their world. I don't want them to be afraid of it. I want them to know how to be critical of it. I want them to know how to engage with those tools. And they are constantly changing. What you learn today, Jenny, will be gone in like a year's time.
So, Laura, while you're speaking, some questions are popping into my head, and I know so many keep coming at me. If I don't interrupt and ask you, you stop, and I'm like, crap, what was I going to ask? So you
Well,
said
that's really
something.
that's how those AI tools are. Oh my God, I just learned it's just like that.
But two things. The first one is, as a child growing up, you said you tell them no, and when you tell them no. And I was so defiant because, like I've always said on all of my podcasts, I am someone that will not conform to anything unless it makes sense to me. And if I want to do something and someone is telling me no, and I can't see why you're telling me no, I will do it. And so here's what I wished when I was growing up. Instead of telling children no, explain why it is no. Because when they understand the outcome, if they make it a yes, then they will be more willing to comply and listen to your no. Okay, that was the first one. Second one is Laura. You homeschooled.
I
Is
still
there,
homeschool.
right? Is there, that's what you're doing. You're homeschooling other people's children, essentially. Here's
Essentially.
my question. Can you homeschool a child throughout their life? Because if you can't, how do they integrate when they have to go into the public or private school systems?
Well, homeschooling right now is really limited to a certain, it's like what we were talking about when we started the first revamping of education, I told you that there's a certain platform that should really be emphasized, right? And that could be through homeschooling remote, homeschooling, in a class, whatever the case may be. I was saying that what you need in traditional education, you don't need anything more than about 2 hours per student every other day. And you can cover the basics, the structural. A child needs a little bit more, you adapt accordingly, and so forth and so on. You could use the classic, which is what I like to do. I use a little bit of the classic, and then I integrate a little bit of AI to just find out where they're at, where their weaknesses are. But many times in my classroom up to a certain age, for example, sixth, seventh grade, I don't have them use, I have them use pen and paper, not Google Docs. But maybe sometimes I will do a Google Doc, and because I want them to be able to use those tools and know how to use them. It's a balance, really, because what I can offer, AI cannot do, right? It's a more human, a more person-to-person approach. The child is very unique, it's not another robot that I'm dealing with, right? But as a human who is going to be dealing with robotic type structures, it is imperative that these be part of the classroom. And when we were talking, Jenny, about that no, 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 right? This is adults nowadays that are fearing what is happening, what is going to come. They fear AI. Oh my God, we're going to lose our job. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
I think
If,
it's human to fear things that are unknown. You're
correct.
used to the status quo. You have a comfort level with that. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of people are stuck in their lives because of the fear that gets in the way of taking the risk toward growth. Because
Right.
I believe a lot of change brings growth.
Correct, right. But I think I'm not to criticize those parents who are fearful, is to kind of like what I do with parents is when, well, I don't want them to be exposed so much to screen time and I don't want them using. I said, I understand all of your concerns, but it is noteworthy that you should know that if you don't embrace something to a certain extent, it's going to outrun you, it's going to outdo you. It just will, right? It's almost like, you know how that saying is, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer.
Yep.
If you view, and many parents do, and many people do, view AI as an enemy to what they know and what they have been privy to all their lives, then it is important to understand it better, to engage with it, right? To understand the idiosyncrasies of it, right? Everything. Even though it's going quite fast. I mean, right now, I think when we had our last podcast on revamping education, we were at like 140 IQ. I think we're already at 162 IQ. I mean, that's more than genius level, and it's going to keep going faster and faster. And they're saying it's going to go faster. All I can do is I can provide a safe space in a classroom where I give them the basic structure, and then engage with them creatively. Like I told you, 2 hours classroom, then you're out there trying different modalities of creativity, whether it be athleticism, whether it be music, whether it be pottery, whether it be art, whether it be karate, anything that is out there where we can really develop the human part of us, right? Not the robotic part, the human part of us. That is essential to that child. Because remember, the child is just coming up and already is quite significantly more in advanced than those children that were maybe like born 5, 10 years ago, right? The survival of the fittest at the end of the day. They're born with certain, I'm sure you've seen, Jenny, when you go to your friend's house and they have small kids, they already know how to use the iPad, the iPhone. They know how to do everything, right? It's almost
Right.
integrated into their gene. So I like to expand on that. I like to amplify that, right? But keeping the wisdom, which there is of the years of history, keeping the basics there and then amplifying, building on that. It's very important as a private educator to be able to do that. And if we want to do this on a more expansive level, it can easily be done. It doesn't have to be homeschooled. It can be done in a classroom scene and then let these kids during school, Jenny, during school, develop all their other interests, all the other activities, workshop classes for boys that have been gone for long. We used to have them in the classroom. They're gone. But now they're telling us, oh my goodness, with AI, we got to go and learn manual labor again. Electricians, plumbers, right? They're the ones that the jobs are not going to be touched. Well, you took out the workshop classes in our schools a long time ago because everybody's supposed to be learning how to code. Now it's no longer the, do you see what I'm saying? We have to we have to keep the kids pivoting and being as, how do you say, fluent and flowing as possible, because that's how they will feel challenged and they will be able to succeed.
My concern with AI is the future generation will end up not using their brains
Mm-hmm.
because the AI is doing everything for you now, almost. I mean, sometimes I'm typing a letter and I'll just get a pop-up telling me, oh, you should type it this way, right?
Uh-huh.
And when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
this young generation, like as a child, I had to learn to write the alphabet. Then
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn cursive. And
Mm-hmm.
I was astonished the other day when I met a young person who told me they couldn't write. Not only could they not write, but they didn't write any words in in its form. Everything was abbreviated. Like you get a text and you have, being from another generation, you have to figure out what are these symbols trying to tell you, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of have to guess the message. Fortunately, I googled it, and Google has all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
But
And what did it say?
well, I can't remember now, but it was a text message full of abbreviations. The words were not spelled out in their completion, and it was like a puzzle message that was a puzzle. And this came from a young person who's about 18 years old. And that made me really sad. So I asked, because I love to ask questions. It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of innate. It's just like I have a question, I'll ask. I want the answer. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was told. Oh, I don't know how to write. I don't know how to write like you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we need to know how to write, but we're going to have to sign our names. Do you think AI will be signing for us? And the other thing I asked you, but I don't think you understood the question, is when you've homeschooled a child,
Mm-hmm.
there's more to homeschooling than just the academic part. There are
Mm-hmm.
other skills that may go undeveloped for some children. For me, I'm a people person, so I don't need like coaching on how
Mm-hmm.
to interact with other people. You throw me there and there are people, I will make my way around and talk to everybody within the first 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But some kids are shy.
Mm-hmm.
How? And this is why I asked, if you've been homeschooled and eventually you have to integrate into the public system,
Mm-hmm.
what is that generally like for the average kid who's been homeschooled?
Well, it's not like I was evading the question or I didn't
No,
understand it.
I
I
didn't
think
think
that
you, I
no, but
didn't, I'm not
the
saying you
common
were.
no, the common misconception is that you homeschool and that there is a social ineptitude to these children or that they're not integrated. Actually, they integrate quite well right after they're finished with their academics, and then they go off to do their sports or their artistry or whatever activities, and they're integrating with kids in that regard. And they're also involved in community activities, for example, Boy Scout program or Girl Scout program. So, but because you're homeschooled, you have more time to do so. Your homeschooling means that it allows you a little bit more flexibility. Like when you mentioned, it was like, oh my God, going to school 8 to 3, it was like going to prison, school. But remember, back to what you had mentioned, the Rockefeller industry, it was set up that way. It was set
Mhm.
up to be an assembly line for, developing workers,
To
right?
create slaves,
Correct.
because
So
we are
in
slaves
a
to the system.
homeschool environment, whom all the students that I homeschool, their time is as scheduled out differently. They have their academic program. They're doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever suits the schedule of the home. And then they're off to their integrate with other students in other activities, right? So whether those be athletic, sports oriented, whether they be music, ballet, dance, they're meeting other kids there. Those are team activities, not necessarily singular. And they are dealing with elders, which is also important because you have coaches. You have instructors in those fields as well. If you go to a pottery class, you have to follow directions. You have to learn how to do that, how to, maneuver the pottery. Integration comes on all different levels. It doesn't mean that I got to go to a school from 8 to 3 to learn how to integrate. Most of the time in those schools, 8 to 3, how are you integrating? You're worrying about, now more than ever, terror drills. How are you going to handle? You got to go through your mandated weekly terrorism drills, of shooter drills, active shooter drills.
And I'm sure
You
those kids are happier because they're in their home environment. There's nobody policing them. They can pee when they want. They
Yeah,
can,
yes,
they
yes.
don't have to
Miss
ask
Laura,
them.
can I get excused? Can I
Yeah,
go to the
yeah.
bathroom?
It's so
I'm just saying
insane. That
that.
used to drive me nuts at school. Seriously. It's like I have to ask permission to go micturate. That's insane.
Yeah, what do you need a hall pass? I think you need a hall pass or something like that.
Jeez.
As you and if you were caught, God forbid, in the hall without the hall pass, why are you out of the class? Very much like you mentioned that if you go back to the history of how the classroom was set up, but you do have to realize that not all of the world was following that structure because I know, for example, because I'm Italian American, in Italy, your classes were only from 9 to 12:30, 1 o'clock, and that was it. Then you went home and you had lunch with your family, and then after school activities, sports, religion, whatever the case may be, was handled between those hours of 3 to 6. And then you're back home for dinner and, homework or whatever. So I don't know where I think this structure and I'm not sure if it's prevalent everywhere, this timing of 8 to 3. And we mentioned this in one of our sessions. Um, that at one time there used to be a mother who'd be able to stay home and take care of the kids if that was her choice, whatever, or do whatever she wanted to do. Now you have to have a two-income family in order to even survive. So it's the parents that need some place to place their children while they're working.
So Laura, we're almost out of time because I want to add some videos.
Yes, okay.
And so what I wanted to point out is
Hmm.
one of the reasons I started this series
Hmm.
is so that you can share your solutions. You've come up with some solutions that you think can take that can contribute because you and I can't restructure the education system. Like, who the heck are we? But
Right.
I believe if you start something in small pockets of people
Hmm.
take your advice and it's working for them,
Hmm.
that they will tell other people, oh, I saw this woman, Laura, and she said da da da, and I tried it. And my
Hmm.
kids are really happy and they're doing great. And this is kind of how trends begin. Someone
Hmm.
puts out an idea, it works, and then
Hmm.
it travels along. And pretty soon it
Hmm.
becomes the hot new trend because it's
Right.
working for everybody. So tell us, the whole goal of this is for you to point out ways you think that can fix all this stuff we've been talking about. How do
Well,
we
I think
fix
the
it?
template has to be a little bit different in terms of, how you set up a school. So the school can be, I mean, the parents do need a place to leave their children to be able to have peace of mind while they're working because we have that dual income necessity. Unless you're in an elite section of society where, you can afford to stay home and there's only one working parent, and God bless it if you're in that situation. But education should be for the all, not be restrictive to just those of a certain economic, foundation or limitation, right? So my solution to this is very easy in the sense that after COVID, all of many of our commercial buildings were left like empty. Nobody, because there was the hybrid, right? A model and or working remotely, right? And some businesses just did not come back, right? So you have many, many, many commercial spaces that are empty, right? And the biggest problem with the schools as they are set up now is that they're huge campuses. Usually when you go to a school, there's big building, right? Lots of classrooms. And then on top of that, you have to have a lot of land for all the other activities, the gym, the sports, whatever it is, right? Huge. It's huge real estate. Real estate is super expensive. How are you going to expand on that, right? And on top of that, it's only in certain pockets, right? So you're driving. Not only do you have to get these kids to school on time, they got to start at 8 or 8:30, whatever. So that means sometimes a 45-minute drive for a family. So my solution was engage with the commercial real estate, right? That is out there, or the people, the landlords, whatever, right? And start building these kiosk pop-up schools, right? Where there's only like 10 or 15, 20 students, right? They come, they get dropped off. There's a lease for like a year, see how everything works in the community. The landlords will work with you because then they'll have a space that's being used, right? Parents can choose basic, like classic pen and paper, no screen for their 2 hours. And some people would say, oh no, I want the AI introduced. So you can have that balance based on what the parents want, right? After those 2 hours, off they go. Off they go with, if you want them in a guided, like, with a teacher, they go into an Uber, they go to a class that they've chosen, based on their talents, right? They want to be interested. I want to learn ballet. I want to learn dance. I want to learn pottery, right? And they will go off. Uber, Waymo, Robotaxi, how are they going to get there? Those companies are also contracted with the school to get the kids to where they need to be. By the time they're done, they're finished with all their after school activities. By 3 o'clock, pickup time, go home, enjoy the family. On top, you don't have to worry about, oh my God, they're not doing their academics, or it's a lot of work for nothing. 2 hours, that's all you need. Then you go off, let them do their activities during the school time, right? Engage with their community. And you know what? A village is what brings up a child, right? So let those services who are also hungry for business, right? The music school, the YMCA, the private sports academy, the music school, the pottery, the art school. Let those services reap some of the benefits of these students being engaged in services that are already out there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Laura. We're out of time, but I
Okay.
want to leave you with a thought-provoking idea.
Mm-hmm.
As a world and as a nation,
Mm-hmm.
why no, I'm throwing this out to the audience, but
Mm-hmm.
why is it that we act like submissive humans? We see things not working. Sometimes we don't even question them. We just go along with status quo because the people we hold in high esteem and on pedestals tell us to do something. And it's not adding up. It's not making sense. But
Mm-hmm.
they said do it, so we do it. And if you look I've been on the planet for a while, and if
Mm-hmm.
I go back to the model, the school model that was used for me, it continues now. We've integrated things like AI and different things from when I was a child to now. But the basic structure, which is what doesn't serve us, remains the same. I am a very curious kind of person. So I've been digging, and what I've discovered
Mm-hmm.
is it will never change if we don't change it, because those who created it
Mm-hmm.
benefit from the way it is. But
Mm-hmm.
we are slaves to it, and we do not benefit from it. It's an illusion, it's a facade. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think I am nuts, go do your homework like I did mine. And you're going to realize a nation full of unemployed young people in debt to an education system that has bled them dry before they had any money of their own, and they are already in debt while unemployed and probably can't remember half of what got them in debt. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're okay with that, that's fine. But I would like you to think about this, especially if you have young kids and grandkids, because something isn't adding up for me. So maybe you can let us know what you think. You can always write to us. You can always leave comments at the bottom of these videos. And we thank you for watching. I have one goal: to create a better world. There's no other benefit in this for me. I have lived my life. I have no grandkids, but all of your kids and grandkids matter to me, which is why I take my time and do these segments. Thank
Yes,
you.
because this is our generation. This is our future, right?
Yes.
And they're going to ask us, what did we do?
Mhm.
Right.
Like Laura said, they're going to ask us, what do we do? So we have to do our part to pave the way so they could come along a well created path that they can build on and create and make the world better. Because don't know about you guys, but to me, the world is in a pretty crappy place right now.
Yes.
I look at the politicians and I look at the state of our country and the world. It's pretty petrifying.
And there's an oligarchy going on. I mean, there are just the biggest five, six numbered, if you can number them, players out there right now. And they're
Always been, always been. It's just now
gonna
it's coming
determine.
under the focus. It's getting exposure and people are seeing it. And what makes me sad is I think of those who have come and gone before us completely oblivious. So I feel very blessed and privileged that I am aware and I know now what is going on. And sometimes knowledge is power, but knowledge is scary.
Yes,
Because when
isolating.
you know too much, and those who make the rules know you know, you're not a favorite. And on
No.
that note, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn and tonight, Laura. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired, because that's why we do this, for inspiration, encouragement, and hopefully planting some seeds that you can water and the world can benefit from. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, thank you. Hold on.